Well, here we go. On the very day in which I recorded a video talking about how there's this kind of Russophobia that has taken over the neolibs, the neocons, and also some of the former dissident right folks who now want to, pull a switcheroo and be all edgy and say, the dissident right, they're all just funded by the Russians. Well, on that very same day, as you can see from the headline here, Russia went and did something ultra-based. Ultra-based. And I didn't even know this was coming. I mean, I don't follow international affairs, so why would I know that it was coming? But it's just funny how these things happen, in succession, one after the other after the other. You got the ban on LGBT propaganda in effect that went into effect recently in the last few months in Russia. Initially, there'd been a ban on propagandizing youth, but then they went and expanded to any kind of LGBT propaganda was banned in Russia, and now Putin signs law banning sex change in Russia. So, just read a little bit here. This is from RT, by the way. But even though this is Russian state news, I think. I think this is something that's not really controversial that this has happened. I don't think that this is there's anything really to be questioned here. So the legislation prohibits medical interventions linked to transitioning except when they are needed to treat birth abnormalities. All right. So Russian President Vladimir Putin signed into law a bill banning sex reassignment surgeries on Monday. The legislation aimed at tighter regulation of what MPs describe as the transgender industry, bans legal sex changes and medical interventions associated with transitioning, except due to serious medical grounds. So, if your genitalia is in some way, you have some babies born with both genitalia, both hermaphrodites. These are very rare cases, but they do happen. Cases like that. The law doesn't stand in the way. But if it's the kind of thing that you see in the West right now, where it's just, I don't feel like a man anymore. I'm going to be a woman now. Or, I don't feel like a woman anymore. I'm going to be a man now. And that it should be my right to have that funded by the state. And everybody should respect my pronouns. This whole mess that they're promoting in high places all across the Western world. Russia's saying, no, we're not going to do that here. Administration of drugs and surgeries associated with gender reassignment therapy will now only be permitted in cases that require treatment of reproductive organ deformities in children. As I was saying before, only licensed clinics linked to the Russian Health Ministry can now make decisions on such treatments and issue relevant certificates, legislation says. People can no longer freely change their sex on ID and other documents. Those who did so may not adopt children under the new law. Married couples can have their marriages declared invalid if one of the spouses changes their sex. Yeah, this is pretty hardcore. This is like we're not doing that. All these idiotic innovations, worse than idiotic, all of these degenerate innovations that are being pushed and promoted relentlessly from on high in the West. Not here, not in Russia. So over 2,000 people legally changed their sex in the country between 2018 and 2022 when the practice was legal. I'm wondering what made the practice legal in 2018. Was it illegal before that? Or had this just never been addressed before in law? Since the since the new Russia started, since the collapse of the Soviet Union. I'm sure it was not legal under Soviet law, but probably, it probably wasn't covered because a lot of things just weren't covered because it was just they were just thought of as beyond the pale. Of course, we're not going to have a law saying that abortion should be illegal. The founders didn't cover that because they were unanimous. They all thought abortion was murder. They all saw it that way. So there was no reason for there to be a law. So it wasn't in the Constitution. So this is another kind of similar circumstance, I would imagine. Okay. State Duma Speaker Vladislas Volodin blasted what he called the Western transgender industry and defended the reasoning behind the law. The number of gender reassignment surgeries in the U.S. has increased by 50 times over the past 10 years, he said. And adding that 1.4 of all U.S. teenagers between 13 and 17 identified themselves as transgender in 2022. Dear Lord. This is the path leading to the degradation of a nation, he said, saying that the newly adopted law was designed to avoid such a scenario. I mean, right on. It still can be used for the treatment of relevant diseases, like we said before. It's not a blanket ban in every single case, but it does. It does mean that you can't just wake up in the morning and say, I want gender reassignment surgery because I've lived as a man for 30 years and now I've decided that all along I'm a woman. Kind of which has become, I mean, it's become more the norm over here. Although I would say, it's more just the idea of it. I don't know if we're really seeing like tons and tons of new transgender people. I don't see them, like all over the place. I don't see them everywhere. It hasn't happened to anybody in my friend group. Not that I have a lot of friends, but but I think it's just the idea of that it's being promoted and pushed so heavily, just like drag queen Storio and other things, which this guy's not having any of. This guy's saying no to all of that. Both he and everybody in the Russian Duma. Now, I remember in the story about LGBT propaganda being banned, I remember it was said to have passed unanimously in the Duma, which is the equivalent of the Congress, in the United States. Here it doesn't say anything about what the margin, how many people voted for it or against it, but the Duma speaker did speak out, it sounds like rather heatedly, about what he believes to be the nefariousness of this trend. So there you go. I mean, there you go, Liddell. There you go, Spencer. All of you pro-NATO, pro-Ukraine types. Like this is your he who is not with something is effectually against it. So, what do you say to that? Are you with Russia in passing this reasonable law or not? There you go.